Frankie Russo show straight out of Brooklyn. You better believe it. How you all doing? Crazy, right? Unbelievable. Another day. These snowflakes, man, they just can't give it a rest. We got to give DT. Let DT it's the will of the people. We got to let DT do his thing. And it's terrible what's going on with the swamp in D.C. These Democrats and some Republicans as well. We got to keep the faith. We're gonna make America great again, and that's it. DT baby. So we got the Russo disclaimer. Russo disclaimer before we start. We're on the outside looking in. It's on that we've decided to put out the statement for the record. We don't sit on any U.S. Congressional Oversight Committee, nor are we a member of the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor do we sit on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, nor do we sit on the National Security Council. In other words, we don't have access to classified documents. With great care, thought, and responsibility, based on court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-researched open source articles, we search for statistical significance. We look for trends, differences, patterns, and then we attempt to conceivably reach responsible conclusions. And go to frankierusso.media. I'm getting ready to update the Hezbollah blog. We have an 18-part series, the Obama-Clinton crime family. We believe it's statistically significant. You better believe it. Absolutely. So there. Okay? So moving forward, today we had some things go on, some things to with Obamacare and they're going to do some DT's he's trying to make it happen. I believe in Donald Trump, and I believe he's going to make it happen. And we'll see. Let's let all the information come out on this hopefully repeal and replace, because I'm not down with the individual mandate. I never read the bill. It's 3,000 pages. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I read Obamacare. So I'm hoping that they got it right. I believe that they did, and we got a shot. I believe Donald Trump is doing what he said he was going to do, and he's going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and they're going to try to replace it with something good. I believe. I have faith. So I stumbled onto this because I was doing some research today, and I stumbled onto this. This is a Hillary Clinton WikiLeaks special. Hillary Clinton WikiLeaks special about Libya. And basically, the WikiLeaks will confirm what we've been saying, that Transnational Council leader, Muslim Brotherhood operative, Mustafa Abdul Jalal, will be questioned by both military and civilian prosecutors regarding his role in the July 2011 assassination of General Abdel Fattah Yunus, Gaddafi's former interior minister and one of the first major defectors from the old regime, according to WikiLeaks emails. Jalal and 10 other Transnational Council officials have been charged with Yunus's death, though none have been arrested. This individual notes that a significant number of advisors and cabinet officials are also associates of Jalal under the Transnational Council. This individual believes that this matter further complicates the Prime Minister's efforts to establish an efficient, respected administration before the mid-13 national elections. So at the height of according to the WikiLeaks email, at the height of the 2011 revolution against Gaddafi, all right, I think it was more fake than real. Extremely sensitive reporting indicated that in July and August 2011, the Transnational Council security officers discovered that Yunus was in secret contact with Gaddafi. In response to this report, a sensitive source stated that Mustafa Abdul Jalal ordered transnational security office to assassinate Yunus while en route to a meeting at the transnational headquarters. Jalal then reported that Yunus had been killed by Islamist dissidents. Oh my goodness. Yunus had been killed by Islamist dissidents among his troops. So basically, this email confirmed what we've been saying on the Frankie Russo show at ABC, this WikiLeaks, and this is basically confirms what the original source of the data was Claire Lopez from the Center for Security Policy. She's great. She's a 30-plus year CIA operative, and this is WikiLeaks email. So just to confirm that what we've been saying was confirmed by WikiLeaks. Okay, so that's that. Just a little, I stumbled onto this as well. Just that we're going to keep this in our, this is just sidebar stuff, you know. There wasn't much really popular today. DT's doing his thing with the healthcare, and he's got, you know, he's ratcheting up what we spoke about yesterday, the $1 trillion infrastructure bill, which could be part private, part public. So that's what's going on pretty much. And he had Paul Ryan gave a presentation to the media on the replacement, the repeal and replace bill, Obamacare, the new Obamacare bill. So all that stuff was going on today. You had Pelosi and Schumer doing their negative situation. I stumbled onto this. At least we not forget, because I'm trying to. We're going to finish with the main gig. I got like 5 to 7 pages of more on General Soleimani. Then we're going to finish it up tomorrow night. I'll give an overview on the article that was written in the New Yorker magazine, and then we'll start with the grace of God Sunday night with Sudan, the case in Sudan with Osama bin Laden, Omar al-Bashir, and we'll see what other characters we bring into this mix. Because we're going full throttle, we're going in deeper. Turkish police detained 6 after Russian ambassador shot dead. This didn't happen recently, it happened in December of 16. Turkish police have detained 6 people over the killing of Russia's ambassador, widening an investigation to relatives of the off-duty policeman who shouted, "Don't forget Aleppo." And both countries cast Monday's attack at an art gallery in the capital of Ankara as an attempt to undermine a recent thawing of ties that have been strained by civil war in Syria, where they back opposing sides. The war, which has killed more than 300,000 people and created a power vacuum exploited by ISIS, reached a potential turning point when Syrian forces ended rebel resistance in the northern city of Aleppo. So we're going to see. I just wanted to bring this up. I stumbled onto it, and I just wanted to. So just to take this a step further, the Turkey identified wait, I got it wrong. Okay, Turkey identified the killer as 22-year-old Mevlut Mert, who had worked for Ankara riot police for 2.5 years. Mevlut, who has also shouted slogans associated with Islamist militancy, after shooting the Russian ambassador, was killed minutes by members of the Turkish special forces. His mother, father, sister, and 2 other brothers were held in the western province, while his flatmate in Ankara was also detained. One senior Turkish security official said investigators were focusing on whether Mevlut Mert had ties to U.S.-based Muslim cleric Gulen, whom Ankara blames for a failed July coup. Gulen has denied responsibility for the coup and Monday's attack and has condemned both events. The slogans that Mevlut Mert shouted, which were captured on video and circulated widely on social media, suggested he was aligned to a radical Islamist ideology rather than that of Gulen, who preaches a message of interfaith dialogue. Don't forget Aleppo, don't forget Syria. You will not be able to feel safe for as long as our districts are not safe. Only death can take me from here, he shouted in Turkish. So this is just to give you a little, just to keep this in play, little reminder of what took place in Turkey, shooting a Russian ambassador. And I saw some other articles, why Iran, Hamas adore Darfur's genocidal dictator, Omar al-Bashir. And just to read a little excerpt from this, paragraph 2, recently Omar al-Bashir, so the head of Hamas, Khalid Mashal, recently telephoned Omar al-Bashir, president of, I guess, Southern Sudan, because they're fighting, and denounced the International Criminal Court's accusation against Omar al-Bashir. According to an article that appeared, this is a Weekly Standard article. It's a couple of years ago, but it gives you an insight into what's going on with Omar al-Bashir. So they denounced the International Criminal Court's accusation. It's a Weekly Standard article. Weekly Standard. They hate Trump. So why Iran and Hamas adore Omar al-Bashir. So the International Criminal Court's accusation against Omar al-Bashir appeared in the Palestinian news agency, and the armed wing of Hamas also proclaimed al-Bashir's innocence. Without addressing the allegations, Khalid Mashal decried the submission of international organizations to U.S. pressure. He confirmed Hamas's solidarity with Sudan, its leadership and people, and in confronting this new conspiracy targeting Sudan through its head of state. The Islamic Republic of Iran defends al-Bashir as international pressure mounted over the slaughter in Darfur. At the time, Iranian President Ahmadinejad described Sudan as a second home full of dear, pious, and revolutionary brothers. Iran and Hamas like to cast themselves as defenders of resistance. Indeed, both claim to fight for justice and the downtrodden. How can they defend mass murder? So just to give you an idea, the story begins in 1989. I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to read this next paragraph. The story begins in 1989 when an Islamist-inspired coup brought by Brigadier Omar al-Bashir to power. Within months, Islamists tied to the National Islamic Front held key posts in the government, security services, and other important sectors. As journalist Judith Miller noted, Sudan became the only Sunni Arab state to have embraced absolutist militant Islamic rule. Weapons and oil supplies began to arrive from Iran. The two states, despite the Sunni-Shia divide, became fast allies. So just to give you an idea, so because we're going to be tackling Sudan, al-Bashir, and all the activities with Osama bin Laden, Iran, we're going to look at that. Sunday night, after I finish up with Soleimani tomorrow night with the article. I'll do a little more on the article. Sudan, I ran into Sudan. Iran signed military cooperation agreement. I don't have the actual agreement, but let's say this is conceivably true. Iran and Sudan. Sudan and Iran signed a military cooperation agreement at the end of the second round of negotiations between the defense ministers of two countries. So the two countries have signed an agreement on cooperation in the fields of technology, industry, and exchange of expert delegations, as well as establishment of military cooperations commission. The agreement signed by Iran's defense Mustafa Mohammed Najor and his Sudan counterpart Abdel Rahman Mohammed Hussein. So also, this also happened with Iran and North Korea as well. And because we're going to go, I'm thinking we're going to finish up tomorrow night. I got some more excerpts from the Soleimani article from Iran's Quds Force. We're going to go through some excerpts from there. That's the main piece. Then tomorrow night, we're going to finish. We're going to finish up with the last 4 or 5 pages, and we'll do a little summation on the article on the New Yorker magazine. It was a 26-page article. And then Sunday night, I take Saturday off. Sunday night, we're starting with Omar al-Bashir, Osama bin Laden in Sudan from a court case. Pretty interesting stuff. And I got all this other stuff that we're going to add to it. Iranian, because their position, Sudan's position with Iran has changed since the time I'm reading these articles, because they're more aligned now with Saudi Arabia, conceivably. But it's hard to really, there is that out there. 2 Iranian warships docked in Port Sudan, marking the second port call by the Iranian Navy in Sudan. The Iranian Navy said the 1,400-ton frigate Jamaran and the 4,700-ton support ship Bushehr docked in Port Sudan after successfully carrying out their assignments in the Red Sea and were greeted by high-ranking Sudan naval commanders. So just to give you an idea of conceivably ties between Iran and Sudan, because yesterday we did mention that, and I found some more articles on it, that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps may have, I'm not saying it's true, may have assisted Omar al-Bashir in his coup d'etat on the southern part of Sudan. We'll see. Profile. Sudan President Omar Bashir, career has been defined by war, came into power in a coup in '89, has ruled until 2011, one of Africa's largest countries with an iron fist. So we'll see what happens with this. This is a little profile on Sudan. Just to give us a little backdrop on Sudan President Omar al-Bashir. Okay, here's another article, and then we're going to get into the Quds Force, and we're going to call it a night. And we're going to go to Scope. Obama's brother involved in the Islamic Dawah organization meetings in Khartoum. Obama's brother involved in the Islamic Dawah organization's meeting in Khartoum. He participated in the Board of Trustees of the ongoing meetings of the Organization of Islamic Dawah, who finished his work in the Sudanese capital of Khartoum. Yesterday, for the first time, Malik Hussein Obama is the brother of U.S. President Barack Obama. President Omar al-Bashir meeting was opened by a lengthy speech. Through it, accused the Western countries and organizations seeking to cause sedition in the country's Western Darfur region. So We're going to get more data on this to see if there's any tie-in with Malik Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. It's crazy stuff, right? We'll see. Omar Abashir. Because I know on my readings so far, outside looking in, you got the Russo disclaimer. Just for a little conversation, this is what I'm getting so far. As of today, Sudan and Iran had a very close relationship, but as you know, there's this proxy war, whatever you want to call it, between, for example, in Yemen, between the Saudi-backed militia, which is the Sunni militia, and the Iran-backed militia, which is the Shia. So Sudan at one point in time, as we mentioned, conceivably was a lot closer to Iran than it is today. I think that's safe to say. And so Sudan today is leaning toward Saudi Arabia. And then we got Turkey, which is leaning toward Sudan and Omar al-Bashir, and Egypt. So just to give you a little more information, Omar al-Bashir is a high-ranking Muslim Brotherhood operative. And Erdogan, published reports, is a Muslim Brotherhood operative. Conceivably, I don't have the full, but there is Muslim Brotherhood ties there. So he's supporting Omar al-Bashir in southern Sudan, and Egypt is supporting the opposition to Omar al-Bashir. So it's interesting what's going on. That's what it seems to be playing out. So now I want to get to the article we've been reading for the last few days called "The Shadow Commander," the New Yorker magazine article. We've been reading excerpts from. We're almost done with it. The Shadow Commander, General Soleimani, the leader of the Iranian Quds Force, and he has a lot to say. Iranian Quds Force is special forces of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So, just to top off some excerpts. After Saddam's regime collapsed, according to Dexter Filkins of the Shadow Commander, General Soleimani's story, about 25-page, 26-page story. Saddam's regime of Iraq collapsed. An American official was dispatched to Baghdad to organize a fledgling government called the Iraqi Governing Council. The American official realized that many Iraqi politicians were flying to Tehran for consultations, and he jumped at the chance, the American official, to negotiate indirectly with Soleimani. In the course of the summer, Crocker passed him the names of prospective Shiite candidates, and the two men vetted each other. The formation of the Governing Council in Iraq was in essence a negotiation between Tehran and Washington, according to the Shadow Commander, the New Yorker magazine, Dexter Filkins. For years, Soleimani had operated into Iraq to cultivate Shiite militias. So when Saddam fell, he already had a fighting force in place, the Bad Door Brigade, the armed wing of a Shiite political party called the Supreme Council for the Islamic Revolution in Iraq. The party's leaders are so thoroughly identified with the Iranian Revolution that the Bad militiamen had fought alongside Iran's forces in the Iran-Iraq War, which was in the 80s, and he's talking more in the early 2000s. So it's conceivably over 20 years he's referencing. The Quds Force began to organize other militias that were willing to attack the Americans. Its operatives trained fighters in Iran, sometimes helped by their comrades in Hezbollah. Soleimani's control over some Iraqi militias at times appeared to be total. Total. The Quds Force began. These are the list. I got 5 more pages left with the article. Tomorrow we're going to finish. The Quds Force began flooding Iraq with lethal roadside bombs in 2004 that the Americans referred to as EFPs, explosively formed projectiles. There was no question where these bombs were coming from, according to General McChrystal, who at the time was the head of the Joint Special Operations Command. We knew where all the factories were in Iran. The EPFs killed hundreds of Americans, unfortunately. Soleimani's campaign against the United States crossed the Sunni-Shia divide, and we talk about that a lot on the show, which he has always been willing to set aside for a larger purpose. Soleimani encouraged the head of intelligence for Assad regime to facilitate the movement of Sunni militias, Sunni extremists, through Syria to fight the Americans. In many cases, al-Qaeda was also allowed a degree of freedom in Iran as well. The American official told Dexter Filkin, the author of this article, the shadow commander of General Soleimani, the Iranian Quds Force leader, general. In May 2003, the Americans received intelligence that al-Qaeda fighters in Iran were planning an attack on Western targets in Saudi Arabia. They were there under Iranian protection, planning operations, and he flew to Geneva and passed a warning to the Iranians, but to no avail. Militants bombed 3 residential compounds in Saudi Arabia, killing 35 people, including 9 Americans. The Quds Force leaders in Iraq say that Soleimani's objective have always been to keep Iraq's political parties divided and unstable, ensuring that the country stayed weak. The Iran-Iraq war was never far from their minds, especially Soleimani. He was there. We talked about that earlier with the article starts off with a funeral of Shatouri, who's a senior official. He died, but he was involved with Soleimani way back in the 80s in the Iran-Iraq war. Interesting. The Americans moved in anyway and took 5 Iranians into custody. All were carrying diplomatic passports, and all, according to General McChrystal, were Quds Force leaders. Neither Soleimani nor Jafari were there. They had eventually broken off from the convoy at the last minute and taken refuge in a safe house controlled by the Kurdish leader Masad Barzani. So we talk about this in the material support, weapons, training, human assets, and the 5 Iranian Quds Force in 2007. They were detained, and so they brought it up here in this article with General Soleimani, and then like over 10 days later or so, in Kabul province in southern Iraq, Soleimani staged an attack because the Americans moved in on 5 Quds Force leaders and detained them. According to the article, the Quds Force were dressed American-style uniforms, flashed IDs. They were allowed through the gates in the compound. They jumped out of their vehicles, ran directly to a building where American soldiers were working. They killed 1, captured 4, ignoring everyone else. In a few hours, the 4 captives were shot. The raid was carried out by Asab Alal, one of Iran's backed militias. American officials speculated that Soleimani ordered the raid in response to the capture of the Quds Force operatives about 10 days ago in Erbil, Iraq. So just to confirm that we have more confirmation that this detention of 5 Iranian Quds Force leaders did happen. So, and then Soleimani planned a counterattack. So, and then to express it further, within 2 months, the Americans had killed the alleged leader of the attack and rounded up several of the participants. So, Americans had killed the alleged leader of the counterattack. and one of them was Allah Musa, a Hezbollah commander who had trained in Iran. So the Quds Force knew of and supported planning for the eventual Kabul attack that killed 5 coalition soldiers. Another excerpt. One of the first came in early 2008 when the Iraqi president Jalal Talabani handed a cell phone with a text message to General David Petraeus, who had taken over the year before as the commander of American forces. So Petraeus in early 2008, 2007, end of 2007, was leading the coalition forces against the interestingly enough, he was leading the forces against Soleimani. Interesting. So the text message that the Iraqi president handed over the cell phone to General David Petraeus, who had taken over the year before as the commander: "Dear General Petraeus, you know that I am General Soleimani and I control the policy for Iran with respect to Iraq, Lebanon, Gaza, Afghanistan. And indeed, the ambassador in Baghdad is a Quds Force member. The individual who is going to replace him is a Quds Force member. After the 5 American soldiers that were killed in Kabul, Soleimani sent a message to the American ambassador." So I heard this once before. That's supposedly a true story. I think even General Petraeus talks about it in an interview. In a speech in 1990, the mission of the Quds Force is to establish popular Hezbollah cells all over the world. And when I do my blog, this is the first time I'm reading this today. When I do my blog, I'm going to show you that Hezbollah's got cells all over the world, particularly in the Western Hemisphere. Although that goal has not been met, I tend to differ that it may have been met. Hezbollah has become the most influential force in Lebanon, a military power and a political party that nearly supersedes the state of Lebanon. From 2006 to 2006, listen to this. From 2000 to 2006, according to this article, the Shadow Commander, the New Yorker magazine, Iran contributed $100 million a year to Hezbollah. Its fighters are attractive proxies. Unlike the Iranians, they speak Arabic, making them better equipped to operate in Syria and elsewhere in the Arab world. The question of Iranian influence in Lebanon resurfaced in 2011 when the United Nations-backed Special Tribunal for Lebanon charged 4 senior members of Hezbollah with assassinating the former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005. Hariri, a Sunni, had been trying to take Lebanon out of the Iranian Syrian orbit. So this is up to page 22. I think I got like 4 more pages, so we'll finish this article up tomorrow. And I just want to give you a quick recap. What we've been saying all along, and we're garnering more data on General Soleimani. Basically, we believe that Obama is a stealth jihad radical Islamist, and so is Hillary Clinton, a stealth jihad radical Islamist. And we use it. We go material support, money. They sent money, weapons, training, human assets. And there's a funnel. Obama, Hillary Clinton's here. They released the Iranian Quds Force leaders. So Iran's at the end of the funnel. The 5 Afghan Taliban, Iran is the end of that funnel. Herullah, the Herat governor of the Taliban governor of the Herat province in Afghanistan, ends up in Iran, the Sahadan city of Iran, in the Afghan Taliban headquarters in Sahadan city. Long War Journal, Thomas Jocelyn is their source with foreignpolicy.com. Why is Mullah Mansour in Iran? Then we get the 150 bill, OPEC, and the 400 mil to 1.3 billion of unmarked bills to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps $400 million to Iran during negotiation sessions. It's like a bribe with Mohammed Zarif and John Kerry. And then we got a lot of money to Hamas, Palestinian Authority Hamas. Iran's into that. Washington Free Beacon, Adam Credo, and the Congressional Research Service. Iran sends about tens of millions of dollars, conceivably, to Palestinian Authority Hamas. Then we got Morsi. They threw up Mubarak. They put Morsi in. Morsi's being tried for espionage. He's in jail for espionage. With Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. We got Syria. Iran gives Syria 3 to 15 billion annually. And in the article here, claiming that Iran loaned Syria $7 billion. So, and we armed these Syrian rebels with money, weapons, and training, and human assets. And we know what happened there was one big debacle. They couldn't fire at Assad. They could only fire at ISIS. But ISIS is the group, the Sunni militia that's firing at Assad. So what's the purpose here? They're actually there to defend basically Syria, the Assad regime, which is Iran. Crazy. And that was evidenced by Chuck Hagel's testimony with some United States senators, namely one of them was John McCain, in his questioning in the oversight committees. So it's kind of crazy what happened in Syria. Benghazi is coming out that it wasn't Ansar al-Sharia, it wasn't a Sunni militia, it was rather the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, General Soleimani, and Hezbollah. Big cover-up. It's going to come out later, and we showed some articles yesterday about that. Kenneth Timmerman's data. North Korea giving missile technology to Iran. The Obama-Clinton nuke deal negotiating team knowing about it and going along with and negotiating the Iranian deal anyway. Horrific. And then we talked about the 100 Obama approved hundreds or 50 or 10 airliners to Iran, and according to the United States Senator Perdue and Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon, that Iran smuggles weapons through the airliners, and Obama approved them. And conceivably, according to United States Senator Perdue and Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon, the Hezbollah's got 120,000 missiles underground, more than any NATO country has above ground in Lebanon. Crazy stuff. And yet people say, and we talk about this too as well, this, to add to the caveat, this is why we talk about with Soleimani, the leader of the Quds Force, with General Soleimani, he changes the, in a lot of ways they say he changes the balance of power in the North African Middle Eastern region. Iranian Quds Force leader visited Iran despite UN travel ban. Report in denial that Iranian commander met with Putin. So trying to forge the Russian-Syrian alliance. We have reports of one meeting. A Russian publication has reports of 4 meetings. But the Iranian Quds Force, which is part of this, which is who we're talking about in this article we've been reading from the New Yorker magazine, The Shadow Commander, General Soleimani by Dexter Filkins, we believe we're statistically significant. We're close. So the question is, who is the Russian agent? Is it Obama? Really? Of course it is. It certainly ain't Trump. Are you kidding? With this data, I mean, like I said, I put my claimer out there. I got my disclaimer. Outside looking in, court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-researched open source articles. We're close, We believe we are, in a quasi-model, statistically significant, quote unquote. I mean, we are close. This is, and we're going to show you after tomorrow night, with God's grace, tomorrow night I'm going to finish up the Shadow Commander article, give you an overview. We're going to tie it together with this board. I'm going to re up the board, and then we're off Saturday. Sunday we're going to come back, and we're going into the court case with Sudan's Omar al-Bashir, the coup d'etat with Osama bin Laden, Iran, and we're going to see where these nasty characters take us, because we ain't stopping. Soleimani went to Russia, up the Russian-Iranian alliance, and everybody's claiming that Trump is a Russian agent. Who is the Russian agent, or agents, quite frankly? You got Obama, you got Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, the whole freaking Obama administration, quite frankly. This is nuts. What they did with Iran, people with a straight face are questioning what's going on with the Trump administration. What they did with Iran alone, they've conceivably have put the balance of power that was always pretty much was always trending toward us, could be trending in a different direction right now. I mean, not only has the Obama-Clinton crime family hurt America with their domestic policies, with their economic fiscal policies, with all the debt, open borders. Look at the healthcare situation that was left with Trump. It's a big economic albatross on the entire economy. It's a problem. And then with the foreign policy and the security breaches that we have in the homeland, and the firewalls that we supposedly had with Egypt, and taking out a Gaddafi, and then the coup d'états that went down over there in Iraq with Maliki, and with Ahmadinejad in Iran, and Syria, coup d'états that Obama just sat on his hands. And they were involved in the Obama-Clinton crime family was involved in the Libyan coup d'état with Gaddafi. We talked about that earlier with the WikiLeaks that shows that the Mustafa Jalal issued the issued the execution order on Gaddafi General Yunus, and he ordered, conceivably, it's pretty strong indications, it was Abu Qatala, who's the only individual that was taken in hostage, who's the only individual that was detained for the unfortunate hit in Benghazi where 4 Americans got killed. And then you got Egypt, where we threw Mubarak out, and we put Morsi in, and Morsi's in jail for espionage with Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. You just can't make this stuff up. And then all the policies, the domestic policies that went on with the Obama-Clinton crime family. I'll show it to you again. Iran's Quds Force chief visited Russia. Visited Russia despite UN travel ban. Report and denial that Iranian commander met Putin in Moscow. And who had this love affair? Who's the Shah of Iran? The stealth jihad radicalism is Obama. Who is the other stealth jihad radicalism is Hillary Clinton. Conceivably, she's an American Muslim convert, right? With John Brennan, that other rat, John Brennan. This is crazy stuff. So tomorrow night, I'm gonna finish up this article, the Shadow Commander. It's a 26 page story on the New Yorker magazine by Dexter Filkins on the general, the leader of the Quds Force, General Soleimani, who can change the balance of power in the North African Middle Eastern region. So it's getting pretty interesting. And so with that, tomorrow night, with the grace of God, tomorrow night we'll finish up the article. I'll give an overview. I'll realign. I'll have this. I'm going to restructure this material support board, and we'll see what it looks like. Make it a little more coherent and a little more direct. and we'll see. I think that I read some articles today on uh, on al-Bashir and Obama's brother involved in the Islamic Dawah organization, and the president of that organization is Omar al-Bashir. So what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. Iranian warships dock in Sudan. Just a little review. We went over that article. We went over why Iran and Hamas adore al-Bashir. We went over that one. We talked about yesterday the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps conceivably aided and supported Omar al-Bashir's coup d'etat on the southern part of on South Sudan, Darfur. And then we talked. Then we had the military cooperation agreement between Sudan and Iran. We talked about that briefly, just to give an overview, a little sidebars. We're going to let the Obamacare replacement, all that come out, more data come out, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about that in a few days. Let the data come out on that. Turkish police detained, and I found this, I stumbled onto this, because we're going to, so just to give you an overview, we also discussed, here's the WikiLeaks on Jalal, Mustafa Jalal of the Transnational Council, who headed up the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group. Operation Zero Footprint of the Obama-Clinton crime family. Claire Lopez is the source. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, and the UAE. NATO allowed this weapons to go into Libya to arm the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and Mustafa Jalal ended up selling weapons back to the Gaddafi regime, and Yunus got a sniff of it, and it came out that Yunus who had defected originally from the Gaddafi regime, was actually speaking with Gaddafi. And then Mustafa Jalal, who is Muslim Brotherhood from the Transnational Council, which is like a fighters for the freedom of Libya, something like that, gave the execution order of this to Abu Qatala, who was the only one detained for the unfortunate Benghazi hit on the 4 Americans. He's in detention right now. And this is the WikiLeaks. This is the WikiLeaks. Hillary Clinton email archive. WikiLeaks. And it talks about how Mustafa Jalal gave the Muslim Brotherhood, Mustafa Jalal gave the executive order, the execution order to Abu Qatala to assassinate Gaddafi General Yunus. And so basically, that's where we're at. And I had gotten an article from Center for Security Policy, but I'll show it tomorrow. And basically, what we're saying is, just to give you an overview quickly, finish up the New Yorker magazine. We're going to start Sudan, Omar Bashir, Osama bin Laden, Sunday night. I got the court case. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited about it. And also, understand, to give you an overview, Sudan and Iran were very close until recently, where, because like in Yemen, Sudan is supporting the Sunni militia. Iran is supporting the Shia militia. So all that craziness is going on in Yemen. And Sudan, who was at one time pretty strong allies with Iran, has now turned away and leaning and moving towards Saudi Arabia, I guess because of the dough. And then you got Turkey, who conceivably Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood. He talks very positive of Omar al-Bashir, who's wanted in international criminal courts for conceivably, I'm paraphrasing, crimes against humanity in Darfur. We all know about that. And then we got Egypt, who's supporting the opposition forces against Omar al-Bashir. So this is what's going on, to give you a little backdrop. So we're going to finish up the Soleimani, the Shadow Commander article in the New Yorker magazine tomorrow night. I'll give you an overview. We'll tie it into the board, the Material Support Board, with the Obama-Clinton crime family. And then Sunday night, we're getting into Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, a court case with Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri from Al-Qaeda, And, I don't know, maybe we'll stumble onto the Blind Sheik. It's going to be pretty interesting. Okay, I'm really excited about it. This is a Frankie Russo show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow night, but hopefully earlier than it is now. I'll see you in the future.